The transport ship dropped out of hyperspace with a shudder that made every passenger grab their seats. Through the viewing port, the massive structure of the Galactic Military Academy floated against the backdrop of a purple nebula. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Ships of all sizes moved around it like insects around a hive. This was the most prestigious military training facility in the known galaxy, and today was the day new cadets would begin their journey. Maya Chen pressed her face against the cold glass and stared at the station. She was small for a human, barely reaching the shoulder of most adults from her species. Her black hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her dark eyes took in every detail of the approaching structure. She wore the simple gray uniform of an incoming cadet, and on her chest was pinned the flag of Earth, a small blue marble that most species in the galaxy had never heard of. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact 15 years ago, and, in that time, they had struggled to find their place among species that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. The Galactic Military Academy had only started accepting human cadets 3 years ago, and, so far, none of them had managed to graduate. The training was too hard, the competition too fierce, and the other species too strong. Maya was the 7th human to attempt the academy. The 6 before her had all washed out within the first year. Some had been injured so badly they could never serve in any military again. One had died during a training exercise. The galaxy was not a friendly place for humans. The transport docked with a series of mechanical sounds, and the passengers began to move toward the exit. Maya grabbed her single bag of belongings and joined the crowd. Around her walked creatures of all shapes and sizes. There were the tall, blue-skinned Valorians with their 4 arms and proud bearing. There were the reptilian Krix, their scales gleaming under the artificial lights, their tails swishing behind them as they walked. She saw a group of Mentori, beings of pure energy contained in special suits that let them interact with the physical world. There were dozens of other species she could not name, all of them bigger, stronger, or more advanced than humans. Nobody looked at her. Nobody spoke to her. She was invisible, and perhaps that was for the best. The registration hall was enormous, with ceilings that stretched up so high Maya could barely see them. Holographic signs floated in the air, directing cadets to different processing stations based on their species. Maya found the station marked for humans and walked toward it. There was no line. She was the only one. A bored-looking administrator, a small gray creature with large eyes and thin fingers, sat behind the desk. It looked up at her approach and let out a sound that her translator chip identified as a sigh. "Another human," the creature said. "Name? Maya Chen, from Earth." The administrator typed something into its console. "Maya Chen. I see you scored in the 98th percentile on the entrance examinations. That is impressive for a human. Your physical scores, however, are concerning. You are below the minimum requirements in strength, speed, and endurance." "I was granted a special exemption," Maya said. She had fought hard for that exemption. She had written letters to every official she could find. She had begged and pleaded and made promises she was not sure she could keep. In the end, someone had decided to give her a chance. "So I see." The administrator did not sound impressed. "You understand that the academy makes no special accommodations for physical limitations. You will be expected to complete the same training as every other cadet. If you cannot keep up, you will be removed. If you are injured, you will receive medical care, but you will not be given extra time to recover. If you die, your body will be returned to your home world at your family's expense." "I understand. Do you? Humans have a poor record here. Your species is young and weak. You have no natural weapons, no special abilities, no genetic advantages. You are soft and fragile. Many of my colleagues believe humans should not be allowed to attend the academy at all. They say it is a waste of resources to train soldiers who will never survive actual combat." Maya felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice steady. "I understand." The administrator studied her for a long moment, then shrugged. "Very well.
You are assigned to Barracks 7, Unit 12. Your training begins tomorrow at dawn. Do not be late.
Maya took the identification card the administrator handed her and walked toward the exit. Her hands were shaking, but she did not let it show. She had expected this. She had prepared for this. She would not let words break her before she even started. The barracks were located in the lower levels of the station, far from the viewing ports and the natural light.
Maya found Barracks 7 after getting lost twice and having to ask for directions from a cleaning robot.
The door slid open as she approached, and she stepped inside. The room was long and narrow, with beds arranged in 2 rows along the walls. Each bed had a small locker beside it and a privacy screen that could be activated if desired. Most of the beds were already claimed, with bags and personal items scattered around them. The cadets who would be her unit mates for the next 4 years were gathered in small groups, talking and laughing.
Conversation stopped when Maya entered.
Every eye turned toward her, and she felt the weight of their attention like a physical force. She counted 12 other cadets in the room. There were 3 Valorians, for Cricks, 2 beings she did not recognize that looked like walking trees, and 3 Menthri who floated in their containment suits.
No other humans.
One of the Valorians, a female with lighter blue skin and golden markings on her face, stepped forward. She towered over Maya by at least 2 feet, and her forearms were crossed in a gesture that seemed universal for disapproval.
You must be the human, the Valorian said.
Her voice was deep and musical, but there was no warmth in it.
I am Valera of House Kinthos. My family has served in the Galactic Fleet for 17 generations. I was told we would have a human in our unit, but I did not believe it. I thought it must be some kind of joke.
It is not a joke, Maya said.
I am Maya Chen, from Earth. I am here to train, just like everyone else. Just like everyone else, Valera repeated, and the other cadets laughed. Little human, you are nothing like everyone else. You are weak. You are small. You will slow us down and drag our unit scores into the dirt. The Academy grades us as a group, which means your failures will become our failures. Do you understand what that means? Maya understood perfectly.
It meant that her unit mates would hate her before they even knew her. It meant that every struggle she faced would be seen as a burden on the group. It meant that she would have no allies, no friends, no support. I will do my best not to be a burden, she said. Your best will not be enough, said one of the Cricks. He was large even for his species, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that watched her like a predator watching prey.
My name is Croth. My people have hunted across the stars since before your kind learned to walk upright.
I can smell your fear, human. I can hear your heart racing.
You do not belong here. Perhaps not, Maya admitted. But I am here anyway.
The room fell silent. The cadets exchanged glances, uncertain how to respond to her calm acceptance of their hostility. Maya used the moment to walk to the only unclaimed bed, the one farthest from the door and closest to the recycling units that hummed loudly through the wall. It was clearly the worst spot in the barracks, the one nobody else wanted. She placed her bag on the bed and began to unpack. Behind her, conversation slowly resumed, but they were quieter now, and she could feel eyes watching her.
Let them watch. Let them judge.
She had not come here to make friends. She had come here to prove something, to herself and to everyone who had ever told her that humans were not good enough. That night, Maya lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. The recycling units were loud, just as she had expected, but she had grown up in a cramped apartment in a crowded city on Earth. She knew how to sleep through noise. What kept her awake was not the sound but the thoughts running through her head. She thought about her parents, who had begged her not to come. They had showed her the news reports about the human cadets who had failed, who had been injured, who had died. They had told her that there was no shame in staying on Earth, in finding a different path. But Maya had looked at them and seen the fear in their eyes, the same fear that every human felt when they looked at the galaxy and realized how small they were. She thought about her younger brother, who had asked her why she wanted to go somewhere that did not want her. She had not known how to answer him.
How could she explain that it was precisely because they did not want her that she had to go? How could she explain that every human who failed at the academy made it harder for the next one, and that every human who succeeded opened a door that could never be closed again? She thought about the first human to graduate from the academy, the one who would prove that her species had a place in the galaxy. She had decided a long time ago that it would be her. The first day of training began with a siren that dragged Maya from sleep. She was on her feet before her eyes were fully open, muscle memory from years of early morning workouts taking over. Around her, the other cadets were slower to rise, groaning and stretching and complaining in a dozen different languages. The unit gathered in the corridor outside the barracks, where a Valerian instructor waited for them. He was old for his species, with scars covering 2 of his forearms and a permanent scowl on his face. His uniform was covered in medals and ribbons that Maya did not recognize. "I am Senior Instructor Varos," he said. "For the next 4 years, your lives belong to me. You will eat when I say. You will sleep when I say. You will breathe when I say. If you survive, you will graduate as officers in the Galactic Fleet. If you do not survive, you will be forgotten. Do you understand?" "Yes, Senior Instructor," the unit responded. Maya's voice was lost in the chorus, but she spoke the words anyway. Varos walked down the line of cadets, examining each one with cold eyes. He stopped in front of Maya and looked down at her for a long moment. "You are the human," he said. "Yes, Senior Instructor. I have trained thousands of cadets from hundreds of species. I have never trained a human. I am told your species is fragile and slow and weak. I am told you will not last a month. What do you say to that?" Maya met his eyes. "I say I am here to prove them wrong, Senior Instructor." Something flickered in Varos's expression, too quick for Maya to identify. Then, he moved on to the next cadet, and the moment was over. The first training exercise was a simple run around the station's outer ring. Simple for the other cadets, at least. The ring was 10 kilometers long, and the artificial gravity was set to twice Earth normal. Maya felt like she was running through water while carrying a boulder on her back. Within the first kilometer, she fell behind. The Valorians took the lead with their long legs and powerful muscles. The Cricks followed close behind, their tails helping them balance as they ran. Even the tree-like beings, which Maya had learned were called Sylvari, moved faster than her, their root-like feet somehow finding perfect grip on the metal floor. By the 3rd kilometer, Maya was alone. The rest of the unit had disappeared around the curve of the ring, and she could no longer hear their footsteps. Her lungs burned. Her legs screamed. Every instinct told her to stop, to rest, to give up. She did not stop. She thought about the 6 humans who had come before her, the ones who had failed. She thought about the administrators and instructors who expected her to fail. She thought about her family, waiting for news on a distant blue planet. She thought about every human who would come after her, whose chances would depend on what she did now. She ran. When she finally crossed the finish line, the rest of the unit was waiting. They had been waiting for nearly 20 minutes. Valera shook her head in disgust. Croth made a sound that her translator identified as contempt. Even Senior Instructor Varos seemed disappointed. "Unit 12, your time is 43 minutes, Varos announced. "That is the worst time of any unit in this training cycle. You will do better tomorrow, or you will run the ring again after dinner." Dismissed. As the unit walked back toward the barracks, Valera fell into step beside Maya. "I hope you are proud of yourself, human. You have embarrassed us on our first day." Maya did not respond. She was too tired to argue, and she knew that nothing she said would change Valera's mind. She would have to show them, not tell them. The days that followed were a blur of pain and exhaustion. Every training exercise exposed Maya's weaknesses. She was the slowest in running, the weakest in lifting, the least accurate in shooting. Her combat scores were abysmal. Her tactical simulations were mediocre at best. The only area where she showed any promise was in written examinations, where her scores were among the highest in the unit. What good is a soldier who can think but cannot fight? Croft asked one evening, after Maya had been defeated in a sparring match for the 100th time. Your brain will not protect you when an enemy is trying to kill you.
Maya wiped blood from her split lip and climbed back to her feet.
Then, I will have to find another way to fight.
The weeks turned into months. Maya's body slowly adapted to the training, but she remained the weakest member of the unit. She was not failing, exactly, but she was not succeeding either. She was surviving, barely, and survival was not enough.
One night, Maya could not sleep.
She lay in her bed and listened to the sounds of her unit mates breathing and the hum of the recycling units, and she knew that something had to change. She was working harder than anyone else, pushing herself further than she thought possible, but it was not enough. She needed an advantage, something that would let her compete with species that were simply better than humans in every physical way. She got out of bed and walked to the unit's common area, a small room with a few chairs and a computer terminal. She sat down at the terminal and began to search through the Academy's database, looking for anything that might help. She searched for hours. She read about different training methods, different fighting styles, different weapons and technologies. She found nothing that seemed useful. Every advantage she discovered was already being used by the other cadets, or required physical abilities she did not have. Just before dawn, when Maya was about to give up, she stumbled across an old file buried deep in the Academy's archives. It was a tactical analysis of a battle that had taken place 300 years ago, during a war between two species Maya had never heard of. The analysis focused on a small unit of soldiers who had been cut off from their main force and surrounded by enemies. They had been outnumbered, outgunned, and had no hope of rescue.
They had won anyway.
Maya read the analysis 3 times, her tired mind struggling to understand what she was seeing. The soldiers had not won through strength or speed or firepower. They had won through stealth and deception. They had hidden when they should have fought. They had run when they should have stood their ground. They had attacked from shadows and disappeared before their enemies could respond. They had been ghosts, impossible to find and impossible to stop. The analysis called their tactics dishonorable. It said they had violated the rules of proper warfare. It recommended that such methods never be taught at the Academy, as they would produce soldiers without courage or integrity. Maya smiled for the first time in months. She began to study. Not the standard curriculum, but the tactics that the Academy had deemed unworthy. She searched for every reference to stealth and deception she could find. She read about assassins and spies and guerrilla fighters from 100 different species. She watched recordings of battles where smaller forces had defeated larger ones through cleverness rather than strength. During the day, she continued her regular training. She still finished last in the physical exercises, still lost every sparring match, still heard the contempt in her unit mates' voices. But, at night, while they slept, she practiced. She learned to move silently, to place her feet in ways that made no sound even on metal floors. She learned to hide in shadows, to make herself small and still and invisible. She learned to strike quickly and withdraw before her target could react. She practiced until her body knew the movements without thinking, until stealth became as natural as breathing. Nobody noticed. Nobody paid attention to the weak little human who was obviously going to fail. And that, Maya realized, was her greatest advantage. She was invisible, just as she had been invisible on the transport ship, just as she had always been invisible in a galaxy that did not care about her species. But invisibility could be a weapon, if you knew how to use it. The mid-year examinations approached. These were practical tests designed to evaluate each cadet's combat abilities, and they would determine who moved forward in the program and who was sent home. Maya knew that her scores on the standard tests would be terrible. She needed something else, some way to show what she had learned. She found her opportunity in the rules for the final examination. Unlike the other tests, the final exam was a free-form combat exercise. Each cadet would be placed in an arena and expected to defeat a series of opponents using any method they chose. The only rules were that lethal force was prohibited and that the cadet had to complete the exercise within the time limit. Maya read the rules carefully, looking for restrictions on tactics.
She found none.
The exercise was designed for cadets to show their strength and skill in direct combat, but nothing in the rules required direct combat.
Nothing prohibited stealth. Nothing prevented her from fighting her own way. When the day of the final examination arrived, Maya was ready.
The arena was a large room filled with obstacles and hiding spots, designed to simulate an urban combat environment. Maya's opponents were combat robots, machines designed to fight like soldiers from various species. She would face 10 of them, each one stronger and faster than she was. Senior Instructor Varos stood in the observation booth above the arena, along with the other cadets from Unit 12. They would watch her examination, just as they had watched the others.
Maya knew what they expected to see.
They expected to watch her fail.
The first robot activated when Maya entered the arena.
It was designed to fight like a Valerian, tall and strong with 4 arms that could strike from multiple angles.
Maya did not try to fight it directly. Instead, she ran into the maze of obstacles and disappeared. The robot followed, its sensors scanning for her heat signature and movement.
It found nothing. Maya had learned to control her breathing, to slow her heart rate, to make herself as cold and still as the metal walls around her.
She was invisible.
She waited in the shadows as the robot searched. When it moved past her position, its back turned, she struck. Her blow was precise, targeting the weak point in the robot's neck where its sensory cables connected.
The robot sparked and fell, deactivated. The second robot activated immediately. Then, the third. Then, the fourth. Maya did not fight them.
She ran and hid and waited, picking them off one by one from the shadows. Each time, her attacks were perfect, targeting weaknesses that the robots could not protect because they did not know where she was. In the observation booth, the other cadets watched in stunned silence. They had expected to see Maya defeated within minutes. Instead, they saw something they had never seen before. They saw a human fighting like a ghost, appearing and disappearing like smoke, bringing down enemies without ever giving them a chance to fight back.
The 9th robot fell. Maya emerged from the shadows to face the 10th and final opponent. This one was different from the others.
It was designed to fight like a Menthari, a being of pure energy that could see in all directions at once.
Stealth would not work against it.
Maya stood in the center of the arena and waited. The robot approached, its energy field crackling with barely contained power. It was faster than her, stronger than her, and it could see her clearly. She could not hide. So she did not try to hide. Instead, she did something that no one expected. She closed her eyes. The other cadets gasped.
Even Senior Instructor Varos leaned forward in surprise.
Closing your eyes in combat was suicide.
It was giving up. It was admitting defeat. But Maya was not giving up.
She was remembering everything she had learned about Menthari combat styles.
She was remembering that Menthari relied heavily on visual cues to predict their opponent's movements. She was remembering that humans had other senses that did not depend on sight. The robot attacked.
Maya listened to the sound of its energy field, felt the change in air pressure as it moved, sensed the vibration through the floor. She dodged at the last possible moment, her body moving without conscious thought. The robot's attack missed by inches.
It attacked again. And again. And again.
Each time, Maya dodged, her eyes still closed, her body responding to signals that the robot could not understand.
She was not fighting the robot.
She was dancing with it, moving in ways it could not predict because it could not understand how she was predicting its movements.
Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Maya found her opening. The robot overextended on an attack, leaving its central core exposed for just a fraction of a second.
Maya struck with all her strength, driving her fist into the core with a precision born of months of practice.
The robot fell.
The examination was over. Maya opened her eyes and looked up at the observation booth. The other cadets were staring at her with expressions she had never seen before. There was no contempt now. There was no disgust.
There was something new, something that looked almost like respect. Senior Instructor Varos's voice came over the speakers. Cadet Chen, your time is 6 minutes and 43 seconds. That is the fastest time of any cadet in this training cycle. He paused for a long moment. Return to the barracks. We will discuss your examination later. Maya walked out of the arena on legs that trembled with exhaustion and relief. She had done it. She had proven that she could compete, that she could succeed, that humans were not as weak and useless as everyone believed. But, as she walked, she knew that this was only the beginning. The examination had shown what she could do, but it had also revealed her methods to everyone who watched. Her advantage of invisibility was gone. Her enemies would be prepared for her now. She would have to find new ways to fight. She would have to keep adapting, keep learning, keep pushing beyond what anyone thought possible. The road ahead would be harder than ever. Maya smiled. She had never been afraid of hard work. That night, Valara came to Maya's bed. The Valerian stood there for a long moment, her forearms hanging at her sides, her expression unreadable. How did you do it? Valara finally asked. How did you defeat those robots when you are so much weaker than them? Maya looked up at the Valerian who had dismissed her as worthless on the first day. I did not try to be stronger than them. I found a different way to win. That is not how warriors fight. I am not a warrior, Maya said. I am something else. I do not know what to call it yet. But I know that it works. Valara was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Perhaps there is more to you than I thought, human. Perhaps you are not as worthless as I believed. She turned and walked away, leaving Maya alone with her thoughts. Maya lay back on her bed and stared at the ceiling. In the distance, the recycling units hummed their endless song. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, new opportunities to fail or succeed. She was ready for all of them. The second year at the academy was different. Maya was no longer invisible. Her performance in the final examination had spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. Cadets from other units stopped her in corridors to ask how she had defeated the robots. Instructors called her into their offices to question her about her training methods. Even the administrators who had warned her that humans did not belong now looked at her with curious eyes. Maya did not enjoy the attention. Attention was the opposite of what she needed. Her entire fighting style depended on being overlooked, on being underestimated, on enemies not knowing what she could do until it was too late. Now everyone knew, and that knowledge made her vulnerable. Senior Instructor Varos summoned her to his office 1 week after the examination. Maya stood at attention before his desk while he studied her with those cold, scarred eyes. You have created a problem for me, Cadet Chen, Varos said. The academy has never seen tactics like yours. Some of my colleagues believe you cheated somehow, though they cannot explain how. Others believe you have discovered some hidden human ability that we did not know about. The truth is simpler, is it not? You studied methods that we do not teach because we consider them beneath our standards. Maya did not respond. She had learned that Varos preferred questions to statements. Stealth, Varos continued. Deception. Misdirection. These are the tools of assassins and spies, not soldiers. The academy trains warriors who face their enemies with honor and courage. We do not train ghosts who strike from shadows. With respect, Senior Instructor, the examination had no rules against my methods. No, it did not. That is why you have not been disqualified. Varos leaned back in his chair. But I must decide what to do with you now. Your physical scores remain the lowest in your unit. Your combat abilities in direct confrontation are inadequate. By all standard measures, you should not advance to the second year. Maya felt her heart sink. After everything she had done, after proving herself in the examination, was she still going to be sent home? However, Varos continued, your tactical scores are exceptional. Your examination performance was unprecedented. And there is something else that I noticed, something that concerns me more than your physical weakness. What is that, senior instructor? Your unit mates. Varos pulled up a holographic display showing data from the past year. Unit 12's overall performance has improved steadily since you arrived.
Not just in written examinations, but in physical tests as well. The improvement is small, but it is consistent.
I have been trying to understand why. Maya had noticed the same thing, though she had never spoken of it.
She thought she knew the answer, but she waited for Varos to continue.
I believe it is because of you, Varos said. Your presence has motivated them.
They have watched you struggle and fail and refuse to give up. They have seen you push yourself beyond what anyone thought possible.
And, somewhere along the way, they started pushing themselves harder too.
Not to help you, but because watching you made them ashamed to give anything less than their best. I did not intend for that to happen, senior instructor.
Intent does not matter. Results do.
Varos deactivated the display and looked at her directly.
You will advance to the second year, Cadet Chen. But, I am placing you on special training.
You will continue your regular curriculum with Unit 12, but you will also receive additional instruction in the methods you have chosen to develop. If the Academy cannot teach you to fight like a warrior, perhaps we can teach you to be a better ghost.
Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. Thank you, senior instructor. Do not thank me yet.
The instructors I am assigning you are not known for their gentle teaching methods. You will suffer. But you seem to have a talent for suffering, so perhaps you will survive. Varos made a gesture of dismissal.
Report to Training Room 7 at midnight tonight. Tell no one where you are going. That night, Maya slipped out of the barracks while her unit mates slept.
She moved through the corridors with the silent steps she had practiced for months, avoiding the security patrols and the wandering cadets who could not sleep. Training Room 7 was in a part of the station she had never visited, deep in the lower levels where the lights were dim and the air smelled of metal and old secrets. The door opened at her approach, revealing a room that was completely dark. Maya stepped inside, and the door closed behind her. She stood in perfect blackness, unable to see her hand in front of her face. "You are punctual," said a voice from somewhere in the darkness. It was a voice she did not recognize, neither male nor female, neither old nor young.
That is your first lesson.
In our work, time is everything. A second too early or too late can mean the difference between success and death.
Who are you? Maya asked. You may call me Shadow.
That is not my name, but names do not matter here.
What matters is what I can teach you.
There was a rustle of movement, and, suddenly, Maya felt a hand on her shoulder.
She had not heard anyone approach. You have good instincts, little human. You have taught yourself to move quietly and strike quickly. But, you are still an amateur.
A child playing at being invisible.
Tonight, we begin to make you real.
The training that followed was unlike anything Maya had experienced. Shadow taught her to see in darkness, to use her other senses to build a picture of her surroundings when her eyes were useless. Shadow taught her to read the movements of others, to predict where they would be before they arrived. Shadow taught her patience, the ability to wait for hours in perfect stillness until the perfect moment arrived.
The sessions continued every night for months.
Maya went through her days exhausted, struggling to keep up with her regular training while her nights were consumed by Shadow's lessons. She learned to pick locks and disable security systems. She learned to change her appearance and her walk and even the sound of her voice. She learned 100 ways to kill that no one would ever suspect. She learned that she was not the first to walk this path.
There have always been shadows, Shadow told her one night.
Every species has those who work in darkness, who do the things that warriors cannot or will not do. The Academy does not acknowledge us, but they need us.
When wars cannot be won with armies, they send us.
We are the last resort, the hidden blade, the weapon that no one sees until it is too late.
Why are you teaching me? Maya asked. I am human. My species is weak and new to the galaxy. Why would you choose me?
Because you understand something that the strong never learn, Shadow replied.
The strong believe they will always be strong.
They trust in their power and never think about what happens when that power fails.
You have never been strong. You have always known that you could be defeated by almost anyone.
So you learn to fight without fighting, to win without strength.
That is the foundation of what we do. Maya thought about this for a long moment. You want me to become an assassin. I want you to become whatever the galaxy needs you to be. Assassin. Spy. Saboteur. Guardian.
The shadows have many forms, and those who walk in them must be ready for all of them.
Shadow paused.
But that is not why I am teaching you.
I am teaching you because you are the first human to walk this path, and I want to see what you become. The second-year examination approached faster than Maya expected.
This time, the test was different.
Rather than individual combat, the cadets would work in teams to complete a tactical objective.
Each unit would be pitted against another in a simulated battle, and victory would depend on teamwork and strategy as much as individual skill.
Unit 12 gathered in their barracks to plan their approach.
Maya sat in the corner, as she always did, and listened to the others discuss tactics. We should use a direct assault formation, Croth suggested. His voice was less hostile than it had been in the first year, though he still rarely spoke to Maya directly.
Our combat strength is higher than most units. If we hit them fast and hard, we can overwhelm them before they can react. That approach is too simple, Valera countered. The other units will expect direct assault. We need something more sophisticated.
She glanced at Maya, then quickly looked away. We need to use all of our resources.
There was a moment of silence. Everyone understood what Valera was suggesting, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Finally, one of the Sylvari spoke.
Her name was Thornweave, and she had never said a single word to Maya in over a year of training together.
We should ask the human. Her tactics won the examination last year.
Perhaps she has ideas for this one as well. Maya felt every eye in the room turn toward her. She had been waiting for this moment, planning for it, though she had not expected it to come so soon. I have some thoughts, she said. The battle against Unit 15 was scheduled for the following week. Unit 15 was considered one of the strongest in the training cycle, led by a Valerian named Corax who was widely expected to graduate at the top of the class. They had won every engagement they had participated in, and no one gave Unit 12 much chance of defeating them. The arena was a simulation of a ruined city, with crumbling buildings and narrow streets and 100 places to hide.
The objective was simple: capture the enemy unit's flag while protecting your own. The first team to capture the enemy flag would win. When the battle began, Unit 12 did not attack. Instead, they retreated to defensive positions around their flag, forming a tight perimeter that would be difficult to penetrate. Unit 15, surprised by this passive strategy, hesitated for a moment before sending scouts to probe the defenses. Maya watched from her hiding spot high above the arena floor. She was not with the rest of her unit. While they held their positions and waited for the enemy to attack, she had slipped away through a route she had planned days in advance. She moved through the shadows, unseen by either team, working her way toward Unit 15's base. The scouts from Unit 15 reported back to Corax. The enemy unit's defenses were strong, they said. A direct assault would be costly. Corax considered his options for a long moment, then ordered his unit to circle around and attack from multiple directions simultaneously. It was a sound strategy, one that would divide Unit 12's defenders and create openings for the assault team. The attack began with a roar. Unit 15 surged forward from 3 directions at once, their warriors charging toward Unit 12's positions with weapons drawn. Unit 12's defenders met them with fierce resistance, and the arena became a chaos of simulated combat. No one noticed Maya. She had reached Unit 15's base while the battle raged at the other end of the arena. Only 2 guards remained to protect the flag, both of them confident that no enemy could have made it past their assault force. They stood at attention, watching the distant flashes of combat, completely unaware of the shadow moving toward them. Maya struck from behind.
The first guard fell without a sound, her neural disruptor, set to training mode, which caused unconsciousness rather than death, hitting him in the neck before he knew she was there. The second guard turned at the sound of his companion falling, but he was too slow.
Maya's second strike took him down before he could raise his weapon.
The flag was unguarded. Maya picked it up and began her journey back to her unit's base. The battle was still raging, but she did not go near it. She took the long route, the hidden route, moving through shadows and ruins while her unit mates fought and bled. When she finally emerged at her unit's position, flag in hand, the members of Unit 15 could not understand what had happened. They had been winning the battle. They had broken through Unit 12's defenses. They had been moments away from capturing the enemy flag. But the enemy had captured theirs first. The victory celebration that night was the loudest Maya had ever heard. Her unit mates, who had barely spoken to her for more than a year, suddenly treated her like a hero. They pressed drinks into her hands and slapped her on the back and told everyone who would listen about the amazing human who had won them the battle. Croth found her standing alone near the edge of the celebration, watching the others with an expression that was difficult to read. "You planned the whole thing," he said. It was not a question. The defensive position. The bait to draw them into attacking. The route through the city. You planned every detail. "I knew we could not beat them in a straight fight," Maya replied. "So I found a different way. You used us as a distraction while you completed the real mission." "Yes." Croth was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he extended one of his clawed hands toward her. "On my world, we have a tradition. When one warrior saves another's honor, they become bound together. Brothers in blood, we call it. I never thought I would offer this to someone outside my species, especially not to a human." Maya looked at the offered hand. She understood what it meant, the weight of the offer. On Crick's culture, blood brothers were closer than family. They would die for each other without hesitation. It was not an offer made lightly. She took his hand. His scales were rough against her skin, and his grip was strong enough to crush bone, but he held her gently. "Blood brothers," Croth said. "Blood brothers," Maya repeated. From that day forward, things were different. Croth's acceptance of Maya changed how the rest of the unit viewed her. The Cricks were known throughout the galaxy as the fiercest warriors alive. If one of them considered a human worthy of respect, perhaps there was something to respect after all. Valera was slower to come around, but eventually she too began to see Maya differently. The Valerian pride that had made her dismiss Maya on the first day now made her reconsider her judgment. If Maya had been weak and useless, Valera's contempt would have been justified. But Maya was not weak or useless. She was different, and different was not the same as inferior. The other cadets began to seek Maya's advice on tactical matters. They asked her to review their plans and identify weaknesses. They asked her to teach them how to move quietly and think creatively. Maya found herself becoming something she had never expected, a leader. But the changes went beyond just her unit. Word of Unit 12's victory over Unit 15 spread throughout the academy. Other cadets began to talk about the human who had won an unwinnable battle, who had captured a flag from under the noses of the best warriors in the training cycle. They began to talk about her methods, her tactics, her strange way of fighting. Some of them began to call her by a new name. They called her the Ghost. Maya did not like the name at first. It drew attention to her, made her visible when she wanted to be invisible. But, over time, she came to understand that the name served a purpose. It created a reputation, and reputation could be a weapon just like any other. When enemies heard that the Ghost was coming for them, they became nervous and made mistakes. When allies heard the name, they felt confident and fought harder. The name was not about Maya. The name was about what Maya represented, the idea that there were other ways to fight, that strength was not the only path to victory, that even the smallest and weakest could triumph if they were clever enough. The third year of training focused on leadership and command. Cadets were expected to take charge of teams and lead them through increasingly complex missions. Maya found herself commanding units in simulations that tested every skill she had learned. She was not a natural leader, not in the traditional sense. She did not inspire through rousing speeches or lead from the front of charges. Her leadership was quieter, more subtle. She watched her people and understood their strengths and weaknesses. She put them in positions where they could succeed. She protected them from threats they did not see coming. The simulations grew harder. The academy pushed the cadets to their limits, wanting to see who would crack under pressure. Some cadets broke. They made bad decisions that got their teams killed in simulations. They froze when they should have acted. They panicked when they should have stayed calm. Maya did not break. In one simulation, her team was ambushed by an enemy force 3 times their size. The standard response would have been to fight a defensive action while calling for reinforcements, but Maya knew that reinforcements would not arrive in time. Instead, she ordered her team to scatter and hide, each member going to ground in a different location. The enemy, unable to find targets to fight, spread out to search for them. And, as they spread out, they became vulnerable. Maya and her team picked them off one by one, emerging from hiding to strike and, then, disappearing again before anyone could respond. By the time the enemy commander realized what was happening, half his force was down. The rest fell quickly after that. The instructors who observed the simulation did not know what to make of it. Maya's tactics violated every principle of proper military engagement. She had not held her ground. She had not protected her position. She had run and hidden and struck from darkness like a coward. But she had won. "Your methods are unorthodox," senior instructor Varos told her after the simulation. "Many of my colleagues believe they should be discouraged. They say you are teaching cadets to fight without honor." "What is more important, senior instructor?" Maya asked. "Honor or victory?" "That is a question that philosophers have debated for thousands of years." "I will not answer it for you." Varos studied her with those cold, scarred eyes. "But I will tell you something that I have learned in my many years of service. When the enemy is at the gates and your people are dying, honor means nothing. Only victory matters. Only survival matters. The dead have no honor to defend." Maya thought about this for a long time after she left Varos's office. She thought about honor and victory and the cost of both. She thought about the warriors she had trained with, who valued glory above all else. She thought about the enemy she might face someday, who would not care about honor if it meant they could win. She decided that she would fight her own way, whatever anyone else thought. The third-year examination was the most difficult yet. Each cadet would be tested individually in a scenario designed to push them beyond their limits. The scenarios were kept secret until the moment of testing, so no one could prepare for what they would face. When Maya's turn came, she walked into the examination room and found herself facing a holographic recreation of a city under siege. Civilian programs, designed to act like real people, ran through the streets in panic. Enemy soldiers advanced from all directions. And, in the center of it all, a single building held a group of hostages that Maya had been ordered to rescue. The scenario was designed to be impossible. The enemy forces were too numerous to fight. The hostages were too well guarded to reach. The time limit was too short to allow for careful planning. Every option Maya could think of led to failure. For a long moment, she stood frozen, her mind racing through possibilities and finding none that worked. The clock ticked down. The enemy soldiers advanced. The hostages waited for a rescue that seemed impossible. Then, Maya did something she had never done before. She stopped thinking about how to win the scenario as it was designed. She started thinking about how to change the scenario itself. She turned to the civilian programs that were running past her in panic. "You there?" she called out to one of them, a projection of a young man who looked terrified. "Can you help me?" The program stopped. It had not been designed to interact with the cadet beyond fleeing in fear. But Maya was asking it a direct question, and its programming required it to respond. "Help you?"
How? What can I do?
I need to get into that building, Maya said, pointing to where the hostages were held.
I need a distraction. Something to draw the enemy's attention away from the main entrance. The program hesitated.
This was not part of its script.
But Maya's request made logical sense, and the program's basic parameters included responding to logical requests.
My sister lives on the other side of the city, the program said slowly, improvising dialogue that its creators had never anticipated.
She has a vehicle.
If I could reach her, we could drive past the building and draw their attention.
Do it, Maya said. Gather as many people as you can. Make noise. Create chaos. I will do the rest.
The civilian programs began to organize, moving from their scripted panic into something new.
They gathered vehicles and made makeshift noisemakers.
They formed groups and planned routes. They became, for the first time in their existence, something more than background decoration. The distraction they created was magnificent.
Vehicles roared past the enemy positions, horns blaring.
Programs shouted and threw objects and made as much noise as possible. The enemy soldiers, programmed to respond to the most immediate threats, turned their attention to this unexpected chaos.
And Maya slipped through the gap they left behind.
She reached the building through a route that should have been impossible, moving through blind spots that only existed because the enemy had been drawn away. She climbed a wall that should have been guarded. She opened a door that should have been locked. She found the hostages and led them out through paths that should have been blocked. When she emerged from the building with the hostages safe behind her, the simulation ended.
The enemy soldiers froze in place. The civilian programs stopped their distraction.
The holographic city faded away, leaving Maya standing in an empty room. The examination panel sat in stunned silence.
"You were not supposed to do that," one of them finally said. The civilian programs were not designed to be allies.
They were supposed to be obstacles, things to work around, not resources to use. The scenario did not say I could not use them, Maya replied.
It only said I had to rescue the hostages within the time limit. I found a way to do that.
By cheating, another panel member said.
By exploiting a flaw in the simulation's programming.
By adapting to circumstances and using available resources, Maya countered.
Is that not what we are supposed to learn here? To think creatively? To find solutions that others do not see?
The panel debated for a long time. Some members wanted to fail her for violating the spirit of the examination. Others argued that she had demonstrated exactly the kind of creative thinking the Academy was supposed to develop. In the end, they reached a compromise. Maya passed the examination, but with a note in her file that her methods were unconventional and potentially problematic.
Maya accepted this judgment without complaint.
She was used to being seen as unconventional and problematic. What mattered was that she had passed. What mattered was that she was 1 year closer to graduation. That night, Shadow found her in Training Room 7.
"You used the civilians," Shadow said. "I did not teach you that."
"No," Maya agreed. "I learned it myself."
"That is good.
The best students eventually surpass their teachers.
The fact that you found a solution I would not have thought of means you are ready for the next stage of your training."
"What is the next stage?"
Shadow was silent for a long moment.
When the voice spoke again, it was different somehow, more serious.
"Until now, I have taught you to be invisible.
I have taught you to strike from shadows and disappear before anyone can respond. These are important skills, and you have learned them well. But there is more to being a shadow than hiding and striking.
There is also knowing when to step into the light." Maya did not understand.
"I thought the whole point was to stay hidden." "The point is to accomplish your mission, whatever that mission might be."
"Sometimes the best way to accomplish a mission is to remain unseen."
"Sometimes the best way is to let yourself be seen, to draw attention to yourself while something else happens in the darkness. The greatest shadows are not those who hide forever. They are those who can choose when to be visible and when to disappear."
Maya thought about this. You want me to learn to be bait. I want you to learn to be whatever the situation requires. Bait. Distraction. Target. Decoy.
The shadows have many tools, and visibility is one of them. You have spent so long learning to be invisible that you have forgotten that visibility can also be a weapon. The training that followed was harder than anything Maya had experienced. Shadow taught her to draw attention to herself, to make herself the center of focus while remaining in control. She learned to be loud and obvious and unmissable, all while preparing traps that no one would see coming. She learned that true invisibility was not about never being seen. It was about controlling when and how you were seen, using your visibility as a tool just like any other. As the fourth and final year approached, Maya began to understand that she was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. She was not a warrior in the traditional sense. She was not an assassin or a spy or any of the other labels that might have applied. She was something new, something that combined all of these elements into a whole that was greater than its parts. She was becoming what the galaxy needed her to be. And she was almost ready. The fourth year at the academy was supposed to be about preparation for graduation. Cadets completed their final coursework, received their assignments, and prepared to join the galactic fleet as commissioned officers. For most of Maya's unitmates, this meant celebration and anticipation. For Maya, it meant something very different. 3 weeks before graduation, senior instructor Varos called an emergency assembly. All fourth-year cadets gathered in the main auditorium, filling the seats with nervous whispers and worried glances. Emergency assemblies were rare, and they never brought good news. The academy commandant, an ancient mentori named Luminex who had not appeared in person for years, floated onto the stage. The energy field that contained his consciousness flickered with agitation, and, when he spoke, his voice carried a weight that silenced every whisper. 3 hours ago, the Galactic Council received a distress signal from the Sentinel Station in the Outer Rim. The station has been attacked by forces we have not been able to identify. Communication has been lost. The station holds over 2,000 civilians, including diplomatic personnel from 17 species. A murmur ran through the audience. The Sentinel Station was famous throughout the galaxy. It was a symbol of cooperation between species, a place where old enemies had come together to build something new. An attack on the station was an attack on everything the Galactic Council represented. The Galactic Fleet is mobilizing a response force, Luminex continued. However, the fleet is currently engaged in operations on the other side of the galaxy. It will take them 18 hours to reach the station. That is too long. Intelligence suggests that whoever attacked the station is planning to destroy it completely before rescue arrives. Maya felt a cold sensation in her stomach. She knew what was coming next. The Academy is the closest military force to the Sentinel Station. A transport ship has been prepared. It will carry a team of volunteers to the station to hold it until the fleet arrives. I must be clear about what this means. This is not a training exercise. This is not a simulation. This is a real combat mission against an unknown enemy force. The chances of survival are uncertain at best. The auditorium was silent. Every cadet understood what was being asked. They were being asked to risk their lives in a mission that experienced soldiers would hesitate to accept. Volunteers will report to Docking Bay 7 in 1 hour. That is all. Luminex floated off the stage, and the auditorium erupted into chaos. Cadets talked over each other, some arguing that they should go, others insisting it was suicide. Friends grabbed friends and begged them not to do anything stupid. Maya did not participate in the chaos. She stood up quietly and began walking toward the exit. Valera caught up with her in the corridor. The Valorian's face was pale, but her voice was steady. You are going. Yes. Why? You have done enough. You have proven yourself 100 times over. You will graduate in 3 weeks. Why risk everything now? Maya stopped walking and turned to face her. Because if I do not go, more humans will die before they ever get the chance I had. Because if I run from this fight, every species that ever doubted humanity will have proof that they were right.
Because sometimes the only way to change the galaxy is to step forward when everyone else steps back. Valera stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Then, I am coming with you. Valera, you do not have to. I know I do not have to. I want to.
You saved my honor when we fought against Unit 15. You have taught me things about tactics and courage that I would never have learned without you.
If you go to fight, I go to fight. That is how it must be. Before Maya could respond, Croth appeared beside them.
His scales were darker than usual, a sign of strong emotion in his species.
If Valera goes, I go.
Blood brothers do not let each other fight alone.
One by one, the rest of Unit 12 gathered around them.
Thornweave with her quiet determination.
The Menthri with their flickering energy fields.
Every single member of the unit that had once dismissed Maya as worthless now stood ready to follow her into battle.
You understand that we might die, Maya said. We understand, Valera replied for all of them. Lead us.
The transport ship was smaller than Maya expected, designed for speed rather than comfort.
20 cadets had volunteered for the mission, including all of Unit 12. Senior Instructor Varos would lead them, along with 2 other instructors who had experience in actual combat.
As the ship launched from the academy and jumped to hyperspace, Varos called Maya to the command center. The intelligence we have is limited, he said, pulling up a holographic display of the Sentinel station. The attackers appear to be wearing unmarked armor and using weapons from multiple species. We do not know who they are or what they want. What we do know is that they control the station's main hub and are holding the civilians hostage.
How many attackers? Maya asked.
Estimates suggest between 50 and 100. They are well equipped and well trained.
We are outnumbered at least 2 to 1.
Maya studied the display, her mind already working through possibilities.
What are our objectives? Primary objective is to secure the civilian hostages. Secondary objective is to prevent the destruction of the station. Tertiary objective is to identify the attackers and their purpose.
Varos paused.
I will not pretend this mission is anything other than extremely dangerous. We are sending cadets into a combat zone against trained enemies. Some of us will not return. I understand, Senior Instructor. I know you do.
That is why I am putting you in charge of the tactical planning. Your methods are unorthodox, but they have proven effective.
This mission requires thinking that the enemy will not expect. I believe you can provide that.
Maya felt the weight of responsibility settle onto her shoulders. 20 lives, plus the 2,000 civilians on the station, now depended on the plans she would create.
If she made a mistake, people would die.
She pushed the fear aside and focused on the display. The station has 3 main access points, she said, pointing to the relevant areas.
The main docking bay, which is almost certainly under enemy control. The emergency airlocks on the lower levels, which are designed for evacuation rather than entry.
And the maintenance tunnels that run through the station's infrastructure.
The maintenance tunnels are too small for most species, Varos pointed out. For most species, yes.
Maya allowed herself a small smile.
But not for all of us.
The plan came together over the next 6 hours.
Maya divided the volunteers into 3 teams.
The first team, led by Varos, would create a distraction at the main docking bay, drawing the enemy's attention and making them believe the main attack was coming from that direction.
The second team, led by Valera, would breach the emergency airlocks and engage any enemy forces that came to investigate.
The third team would be Maya and 3 others small enough to fit through the maintenance tunnels, 2 Menthri who could compress their energy fields, and Thornweave, whose Sylvari body could reshape itself to squeeze through narrow spaces. They would infiltrate the station through routes the enemy would never expect and work their way toward the hostages while everyone else kept the attackers busy.
It is a good plan,
Croth admitted when Maya presented it to the group. But it depends on the distraction teams surviving long enough for you to reach the hostages.
We will be outnumbered and outgunned. I know. That is why I am asking you to do something that goes against everything the Academy has taught you. I am asking you to retreat. To run. To hide when you should stand and fight. Maya looked around at her unit mates, these warriors who had spent 4 years training to face enemies head-on. The goal is not to defeat them. The goal is to keep them busy. Strike and fall back. Draw them out of position. Make them chase you instead of watching the tunnels. Every minute you can give me is a minute closer to success. You are asking us to fight like ghosts, Valera said. I am asking you to fight like me. There was a moment of silence.
Then, Valera laughed, a sound Maya had rarely heard from the proud Valerian.
Very well, little human. We will fight like ghosts. For today, at least.
The Sentinel station emerged from hyperspace as a mass of twisted metal and flickering lights. Whatever had happened there had been violent. Debris floated around the structure, and several sections showed signs of explosive damage. But the station's core was intact, and sensors indicated life signs inside. The transport approached carefully, staying out of weapons range while Maya finalized the positioning of the teams.
When everything was ready, she gave the signal. The distraction teams launched first. They approached the main docking bay and the emergency airlocks simultaneously, drawing immediate attention from the enemy. Weapons fire lit up the void between the ships and the station. Enemy soldiers rushed to defensive positions, their attention focused outward. No one noticed the small shuttle that detached from the transport and drifted toward a section of the station that showed no activity. No one noticed the 4 figures that emerged from the shuttle and slipped into a maintenance hatch that was barely large enough for them to squeeze through. The tunnels were dark and cramped. Maya moved through them by touch and sound, her training guiding her when her eyes were useless. Behind her, Thornleaf's body rustled quietly as it reshaped itself to fit through narrow sections. The 2 Menthri glowed faintly, their contained energy providing just enough light to see by. They moved slowly, carefully, stopping every few meters to listen for sounds of discovery. The battle outside continued, creating vibrations that ran through the station's hull. Maya hoped her friends were surviving out there. She hoped their sacrifices would not be in vain. After what felt like hours, they reached the section of tunnels that ran beneath the main hub. Through the walls, Maya could hear voices, the sounds of the attackers moving and talking and completely unaware of the threat that crept toward them. She found a vent that looked down into a large room. Below her, she could see the hostages, over 100 civilians from various species huddled together under the watch of a dozen armed guards. The guards were confident, relaxed, certain that no rescue was possible. Maya studied the room, counting guards and noting positions. Then, she looked at her team. Thornweave, can you reach the ventilation controls without being seen? The Sylvari examined the tunnel network that spread out around them. I believe so. What do you need? When I give the signal, I need you to flood the room with coolant gas. It will not harm the hostages, but it will create a cloud that blocks visibility. The Menthri will move through the cloud and disable the guards' weapons using electromagnetic pulses. I will drop down and neutralize any guards who remain active. And if it does not work? Then, we die. But we were probably going to die anyway, so we might as well try. Thornweave made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are a strange creature, human. I am glad I met you. They moved into position. Maya waited above the vent, counting seconds, listening to the sounds below. She heard the guards talking about the battle outside, joking about how easy it was to hold hostages when no one could reach them. She heard the civilians whimpering and praying in a dozen different languages. She gave the signal. Coolant gas erupted from the vents, filling the room with white mist in seconds. The guards shouted in confusion, their weapons raised but useless when they could not see targets. The Menthri dove into the mist, their energy fields pulsing with electromagnetic disruption. Weapons sparked and died. Maya dropped. She landed behind the first guard before he knew she was there. Her strike put him down silently. She moved to the second, then the third, flowing through the mist like she was part of it.
Each movement was precise, economical, deadly. She had practiced these techniques 1,000 times in the darkness of Training Room 7. Now she used them for real. The last guard saw her coming. He raised his fists, ready to fight even without his weapon. Maya did not slow down. She ducked under his swing, struck 3 times in rapid succession, and watched him fall. The mist began to clear. The civilians stared at her with expressions of shock and disbelief. A human had saved them. A small, weak human had taken down 12 armed guards in less than a minute. Maya did not have time to enjoy their surprise. We need to move. The enemy will know something is wrong when their guards stop reporting. Follow me to the emergency evacuation pods. Stay together and stay quiet. The evacuation was chaos-controlled only by Maya's firm voice and clear directions. She led the hostages through corridors that should have been full of enemies but were mysteriously empty. The distraction teams were doing their job, drawing the attackers away from the escape route and toward the outer sections of the station. But the attackers were not stupid. They eventually realized that something was happening at the main hub. Maya heard shouting in the distance, the sound of running feet, the crackle of weapons being readied. Move faster, she ordered. We are almost there. The first group of enemies appeared at the end of the corridor just as Maya reached the evacuation bay. There were 6 of them, all armed, all pointing weapons at her and the civilians she was trying to protect. For a single heartbeat, time seemed to stop. Maya looked at the enemies. The enemies looked at her. The civilians behind her held their breath. Then, Croth appeared behind the enemies. Then, Valera. Then, the rest of Unit 12, battered and bloody but still fighting. They fell upon the attackers from behind, overwhelming them through surprise and ferocity. Get the hostages to the pods, Valera shouted. We will hold them here. Maya did not argue. She pushed the civilians toward the evacuation pods, cramming as many as possible into each one and launching them toward safety. The pods were designed to be picked up by rescue ships, and the Galactic Fleet would be arriving soon. As the last pods launched, Maya turned back to help her friends. The corridor behind her had become a battlefield. Unit 12 fought with everything they had, but they were outnumbered and exhausted. Even as Maya watched, she saw one of the Menthry flicker and fade, its containment suit breached beyond repair. She did not think. She moved. Maya threw herself into the battle with a fury that surprised even her. She struck from angles no one expected, appeared and disappeared like the ghost everyone called her. She fought alongside Croth, watching his back as he watched hers. She pulled Thornweave out of danger when the Sylvari was surrounded. She stood beside Valera as they faced a wave of enemies together. But there were too many enemies, and too few of them. One by one, her unit mates fell. Not dead, but injured, unable to continue fighting. Soon only Maya and Varos remained standing, surrounded by a circle of armed attackers. The enemy commander stepped forward. He was Valerian, Maya realized with a shock, though his armor bore no house markings. His face was scarred and cold, his eyes filled with contempt. You are the human, he said. The ghost. I have heard of you. Then, you know what I can do, Maya replied. I know what they say you can do. But, stories always exaggerate. You are alone now, human. Your friends are defeated. Your mission has failed. Surrender, and I will grant you a quick death. Maya looked around at the circle of enemies. She looked at Varos, who was bleeding from a wound in his side but still standing. She looked at her fallen unitmates, who had fought so hard for so long. She thought about everything she had learned. Every lesson from Shadow. Every training session with her unit. Every moment of pain and struggle and determination that had brought her to this point. She smiled. You are right, she said. Stories always exaggerate. So let me tell you a truth instead. Humans are not strong. We are not fast. We have no natural weapons, no special abilities, no genetic advantages.
We are exactly as weak as everyone says. The enemy commander frowned, uncertain where this was going. But weakness taught us something that strength never could, Maya continued. It taught us to never, ever give up. No matter how many times we fall, we stand up again. No matter how many times we fail, we try again. We are too stupid to know when we are beaten. We are too stubborn to accept defeat. And, right now, you might be wondering why I am wasting time talking instead of fighting. The commander's eyes widened as he finally understood. The evacuation pods were not the only things I launched, Maya said. I also launched a signal. A distress beacon modified to reach the galactic fleet through hyperspace. They should be arriving right about now. As if on cue, the station shuddered. Through the viewports, Maya could see the massive shapes of warships dropping out of hyperspace. The galactic fleet had arrived, hours earlier than expected. The modified beacon had reached them and conveyed the urgency of the situation. The enemy commander's face went pale. His army was trapped on a station surrounded by the most powerful military force in the galaxy. There was no escape. There was no victory. There was only surrender or death. This changes nothing, he snarled. We will take as many of you with us as we can. He raised his weapon. Maya prepared to move, knowing she could not dodge in time, knowing this would be her final moment. The shot never came. Varos moved faster than Maya thought possible, throwing himself between her and the weapon. The blast caught him in the chest, and he fell. Maya screamed. What happened next was a blur of motion and fury. Maya moved like she had never moved before, driven by rage and grief and something deeper that she could not name. She struck the commander before he could fire again, disabling him with a blow that would leave him paralyzed for life. She moved to the next enemy, and the next, her attacks fueled by emotion that burned through her exhaustion. But even rage has limits. The enemies closed in around her, too many to fight, too many to escape. Maya felt blows land on her body, felt her strength finally giving out. She fell to her knees, unable to continue. And then, the fleet marines burst through the door. The battle ended quickly after that. The marines were fresh and well-armed, and the attackers were demoralized by the arrival of the fleet. Most of them surrendered. The ones who did not were quickly subdued. Maya crawled to where Varos lay. The senior instructor was still alive, but barely. His breath came in ragged gasps, and his eyes struggled to focus. You did well, he whispered. Better than I expected. Better than anyone expected. Do not talk, Maya said. The medics are coming. You are going to be fine. Liar. Varos managed a weak smile. I have seen enough wounds to know a fatal one. But that is acceptable. I have lived a long life. I have trained many cadets. Now I have seen a human become something that the galaxy will never forget. Senior instructor. Listen to me. Varos grabbed her hand with surprising strength. The Academy will try to ignore what you have done today. They will downplay your methods and your achievements. They will tell stories that make your success seem like luck or accident. Do not let them. Make them acknowledge you. Make them remember your name. Make them understand that humans are not weak. They are just different. And different can be extraordinary. His grip relaxed. His eyes closed. Senior instructor Varos, who had trained thousands of cadets across a career spanning decades, was gone. Maya knelt beside his body and did not move. Around her, medics worked to save the wounded. Marines secured the station. Officers coordinated the cleanup. The crisis was over, but Maya felt like something had just begun. The graduation ceremony took place 3 weeks later, as originally scheduled. The Academy Commandant had wanted to postpone it, but Maya had insisted. Her unit mates had fought and bled and nearly died for the chance to graduate. They would not be denied that honor because of her. The ceremony was held in the Academy's Grand Hall, a space that could hold thousands. Every seat was filled. Cadets from every training cycle sat with their families. Instructors lined the walls in their formal uniforms. Dignitaries from 100 worlds watched from the upper balconies. And, in the front row, representatives from Earth sat with tears in their eyes. Maya walked to the stage when her name was called. She wore her dress uniform, cleaned and pressed, the flag of Earth still pinned to her chest. Her body was covered in bandages hidden by the fabric, wounds that would leave scars she would carry for the rest of her life. Luminex floated before her, the ancient Menthori's energy field burning brighter than Maya had ever seen it. "Cadet Maya Chen of Earth," Luminex announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "You came to this academy as a representative of a species that many believed had no place among the stars. You faced prejudice and doubt and enemies who wanted you to fail. You were told you were weak. You were told you were worthless. You were told to go home and leave the real work to those who were born for it." The hall was silent. Every eye was on Maya. "You proved them all wrong," Luminex continued. "Through determination and creativity and a courage that defied everything we thought we knew about your species, you became something unprecedented. You saved the lives of over 2,000 civilians when a fleet of warships could not reach them in time. You led your unitmates through a battle that should have been impossible to win. You honored the memory of senior instructor Varos by demonstrating everything he spent his life teaching." Maya felt tears on her cheeks but did not wipe them away. "It is my honor to announce that you have not merely graduated from this academy. You have done so at the top of your class. You have earned the highest tactical rating ever awarded to a cadet in the academy's history. And you have been granted a rare distinction that few living beings have ever received." Luminex produced a medal that gleamed with an inner light. It was shaped like a star surrounded by shadows, a symbol Maya did not recognize. "From this day forward, you are recognized as a Master of Shadows, a title that has not been awarded in over 300 years. You are the first human to hold this rank. You will serve the Galactic Council in ways that history may never record, but that will shape the future of every species in known space." The hall erupted in applause. Maya stood frozen, overwhelmed by the moment. She looked at the Earth delegation and saw her parents, weeping with joy. She looked at her unitmates, still recovering from their wounds but standing tall with pride. She looked at the empty chair where senior instructor Varos should have been sitting. When the applause finally faded, Luminex spoke again. "Do you have anything to say, Master Chen?" Maya stepped forward to the podium. She looked out at the thousands of faces watching her, beings from 100 worlds who had spent centuries dismissing her species as primitive and weak. "I came to this academy because I wanted to prove that humans belong in the galaxy," she said. "I thought that if I could graduate, if I could succeed where others had failed, I would open doors for my species that could never be closed again. I thought it was about showing strength." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I was wrong. It was never about strength. It was about something far more important. It was about showing that there are many ways to be valuable, many ways to contribute, many ways to serve. The galaxy does not need more warriors. It has plenty of those. What it needs is diversity. It needs voices that speak in different ways, minds that think in different patterns, hearts that beat to different rhythms. It needs humans, with all our weakness and stubbornness and refusal to accept defeat." Maya looked at her unitmates. "I did not succeed alone. I succeeded because of the beings who chose to fight beside me, who learned to trust methods they did not understand, who became my family when I was far from home. Valera, who taught me that pride can be a shield as well as a weapon. Croth, who showed me that blood bonds are stronger than species boundaries. Thornweave, who reminded me that flexibility is itself a form of strength. Every member of Unit 12, who followed me into darkness and emerged into light. And Senior Instructor Varos, who saw potential in a weak little human when no one else did, and who gave his life to protect that potential." Tears flowed freely now, from Maya and from many in the audience. "I am not the last human who will walk these halls," Maya concluded. "I am only the first. After me will come others, each one bringing their own unique gifts to the galaxy. Some will be warriors. Some will be diplomats. Some will be scientists or artists or explorers. All of them will be human, and all of them will belong. That is my legacy. That is what I fought for. That is what Senior Instructor Varos died to protect. She stepped back from the podium. The applause that followed was the loudest sound Maya had ever heard. After the ceremony, Maya found herself surrounded by beings who wanted to shake her hand, touch her shoulder, simply be near the first human to graduate from the Galactic Military Academy. She accepted their congratulations with grace, though she longed for quiet. Eventually, she escaped to one of the observation decks. She stood at the viewport and looked out at the stars, letting the silence wash over her. A voice came from behind her. "You gave a good speech." Maya turned to find Shadow standing there. Or rather, she found the outline of Shadow, the vague shape of a being who existed more in darkness than in light. "You were watching," Maya said. "I am always watching. It is what shadows do." Shadow moved to stand beside her at the viewport. "You have done something remarkable today. You have changed the way the galaxy sees your species. Doors that were closed for years are now opening. Opportunities that did not exist are now possible. Humans will remember this day for centuries." "Is that why you trained me? To change things?" "I trained you because you had potential. What you did with that potential was your choice." Shadow was silent for a moment. "But I will admit that I hoped for something like this. The galaxy has become stagnant. The same species have dominated for too long. The same tactics have been used in every battle. The same assumptions have gone unchallenged. Your species, with your different perspectives and different approaches, might shake things up in useful ways. And now you have a choice to make. The Council will offer you positions. The fleet will want you to lead missions. Politicians will want you to be a symbol. But these are not the only paths available to you." Maya looked at Shadow. "What are you offering?" "The same thing I have always offered. Training. Knowledge. A place in the shadows where you can do the work that needs to be done without anyone knowing you were there. It is not a glamorous life. It is not a life of recognition or praise. But it is a life of purpose." Maya thought about everything she had experienced. The training sessions in darkness. The battles won through cunning instead of strength. The moment when she had thrown herself into combat without thinking, driven by something deeper than strategy. "I am tired of being invisible," she said finally. "I spent 4 years learning to hide, and now I want to be seen. I want humans to have a face they can look at and feel pride. I want enemies to see me coming and know what is about to happen. I want to be the thing that darkness fears." Shadow made a sound that might have been approval. "An interesting choice. And probably the right one, for now. The galaxy needs symbols as much as it needs shadows. But remember what I taught you. Remember that visibility is a tool, not an identity. And remember that if you ever need to disappear, you know how to do it." "I will remember." Shadow faded into the darkness, leaving Maya alone at the viewport. She watched the stars for a long time, thinking about the future. About the missions she would lead and the enemies she would face. About the humans who would follow her to the academy and beyond. About the legacy she was building with every step she took. In a galaxy that had dismissed her species as weak and worthless, she had become something no one had expected. Silent when she needed to be silent. Unseen when she needed to be unseen. Unstoppable when she needed to be unstoppable. And everywhere she went, her battle name echoed. They called her the Ghost. The story of Maya Chen spread through the galaxy like light through space. Ships carried it from world to world, from species to species, from generation to generation. It became a legend, then a myth, then something that children whispered about when they dreamed of being heroes. The academy changed after Maya graduated. Human applicants increased tenfold in the first year alone, and many of them succeeded.
The tactics that Maya had pioneered were studied and refined and eventually incorporated into the standard curriculum.
Stealth operations became a respected discipline rather than a shameful secret.
Other species began to learn the methods that humans had discovered, methods that relied on cleverness rather than strength.
Valera returned to her home world as a hero.
She had followed a human into battle and emerged with her honor not just intact but enhanced. Her family, House Kinthos, began sponsoring human exchange students, building bridges between species that had never existed before. Croft became an ambassador of sorts, traveling between human worlds and Crick's colonies, teaching each species about the other. His blood bond with Maya was recognized by his people as a sign of things to come, a future where species boundaries meant less than shared purpose.
Thornweave returned to the Silvari homeworld and planted a tree in Maya's honor.
It grew taller than any other tree in the forest, reaching toward the stars as if trying to touch the human who had inspired it. The Menthuri who had survived the battle formed a unit dedicated to Maya's memory. They called themselves the Ghost Guard, and they became legendary for their ability to appear and disappear without warning. And Maya herself continued to serve. She led missions that the history books would never record.
She trained cadets who would surpass even her achievements. She became a symbol of everything that humans could be when they were given a chance.
She never forgot the lessons she had learned. She never forgot the beings who had helped her along the way. And she never forgot the words that senior instructor Varos had spoken with his dying breath. Make them acknowledge you.
Make them remember your name. Make them understand that humans are not weak. They are just different. And different can be extraordinary.
Years later, when Maya was old and her body was worn from decades of service, she returned to the academy one final time. She walked through the halls where she had once been dismissed as worthless. She looked at the displays that now featured her image alongside the greatest heroes of galactic history. She stood in the grand hall where she had given her speech and watched new cadets take their first steps on paths she had helped create. A young human cadet approached her, nervous but determined.
"Excuse me, ma'am. I was hoping I could ask you something."
Maya smiled at the cadet.
"Of course. What would you like to know? How did you do it? How did you succeed when everyone said it was impossible? How did you become the ghost?" Maya thought about the question for a long moment.
She thought about all the suffering and struggle, the victories and defeats, the lessons learned and the prices paid. She thought about the night she had discovered the ancient tactical analysis buried in the Academy's archives, the moment that had changed everything. "I did not try to be what they wanted me to be," she finally said. "I tried to be what I was. When they said I was too weak to fight, I found ways to win without fighting. When they said I was too slow to keep up, I found paths that no one else could follow. When they said I was worthless, I proved that worth is not measured by strength alone." She put her hand on the young cadet's shoulder.
"The galaxy will tell you that you do not belong. It will tell you that humans are too weak, too new, too different to matter. Do not listen. Find your own path. Discover your own strengths. Become something that no one has ever seen before. That is how you succeed. That is how you become the person the galaxy needs you to be." The young cadet's eyes shone with determination. "I will try, ma'am." "Do not try. Do." Maya smiled. "Now go. Your training awaits.
And remember, when the darkness seems too deep and the enemies too strong, remember that you come from a species that refuses to give up.
You come from Earth. You are human. And that means you are capable of anything."
The cadet saluted and hurried away, eager to begin the journey that Maya had begun decades before.
Maya watched until the cadet disappeared around a corner, then turned back to the window. Outside, the stars burned in the endless void.
Ships from 100 worlds moved between them, carrying beings who had learned to respect humanity because of what Maya had done. The galaxy was different now, better in ways that no one could have predicted when a small, weak human had first set foot in the academy. Maya closed her eyes and remembered everything. The fear of that first day. The pain of endless training. The triumph of unexpected victories. The grief of losses that still ached. The pride of seeing her species take its rightful place among the stars. She had come so far from the girl who had pressed her face against the viewport of a transport ship, staring at an academy that did not want her. She had become legend. She had become symbol. She had become something that the galaxy would never forget. She had become the ghost. And her battle name would echo through the academy forever.